Alright, today we're going to do subtracting negative numbers. If you did okay with lesson 1 with last lesson on adding negative numbers, then you should do okay with this. The one thing that I do want to point out in math, there are opposites. So here we have positive or plus. The opposite of plus or adding is subtracting, so which would be a negative. Those two things are opposite, just to point that out before we get going, okay? So looking at 2C1, here, remember, positive means you have, negative means you owe. So here, you have a positive 12 minus a positive 13. What you're going to do with all these problems, anytime you see a problem where it's subtraction, we're going to work on turning it into an adding problem so it looks just like the ones you did last week, okay? So, or last lesson. So, a subtraction sign, or I want you to view it as a negative, means do the opposite, okay? So, because negative or owing money is the opposite of adding or having money. So here, view this as do the opposite, okay? So you want to do the opposite. So this sign says make this the opposite. So here what you're going to do is you're going to turn this into a plus sign and then make this the opposite of what it is. This little symbol says make this one the opposite, okay? So we're going to change this. This negative says make this one the opposite, do the opposite, okay? Because when you're subtracting, like that's the opposite of adding. So change this to a positive and then make this the opposite sign. So this now becomes a negative 13, okay? If you want to rewrite it underneath, like you have this and this, so you have a positive 12. You're not doing anything to the first number. This becomes a positive, then this symbol says change this to do the opposite, okay? Because you're subtracting, you want to do the opposite. So this becomes negative 13. So now this looks just like last lesson. You have $12 and you owe 13. So if you have 12 and you owe 13, are you going to have or are you going to owe in the end? You're still going to owe. Well, how many will you owe? 13 minus 12 is 1. Okay, let's look at 2C number 2. Again, you're not going to do anything to this first number. This first number means we owe 27. We're going to change this to a positive, and because this is a negative, negative means do the opposite, because negative is opposite of addition. So this, when you see a negative sign, view this me as the opposite. So this says do the opposite here. So we're going to change this to a plus. Don't change your first number. Change this to a plus sign and then make this the opposite sign. I don't want to always just say flip-flop these because you're not always going to flip-flop those, okay? So now this is written in the way that you learned it in lesson 1. You owe 27 plus you owe 41 more. Well, if you owe and you owe more, you're still going to owe in the end. Well, how much are you going to owe? You have to total the two numbers together. You have to add the two numbers together. So 7, 1, 8, 2 and 4, 6, so you're going to owe 68. Look at 2B number 5. Okay, again, you're not changing the first thing. You're not changing the first number at all. Okay, you're going to change this to a plus sign, and then this, the fact that it's a negative or subtraction, says do the opposite here. So that's going to become a plus, and then this is going to become the opposite sign. Now, this reads, you owe 2 plus you owe 7 more. Okay, so if you owe and you owe more, you're still going to owe. Well, how much are you going to owe total? 2 and 7 is 9. 2 plus 7 is 9. All right, now look at 2C8. Okay, you owe 8, subtracting, you owe 3. Okay, again, you're not changing this first number. You owe 8. Then you want to change this to a plus sign, and then this negative says be the opposite. So change this to a plus sign, then this needs to be the opposite sign that's already there. So then this becomes a plus sign. This symbol says be the opposite. This one needs to be the opposite. Change this to a plus and then change this to the other sign, the opposite sign. Okay? So then this becomes you owe 8 plus you have 3. Well, if you owe 8 and then someone gives you $3, are you going to owe or are you going to have money? You're still going to owe. Well, how much are you going to owe? Because these signs are different, you have to subtract these numbers. You still will owe $5 because 8 minus 3 is 5. The other thing that I want to point out in math, this is what I usually say in math. Only in math do 2 wrongs make a right. Anytime you see a negative, negative, so only in math does this work. 2 wrongs make a right, a negative, negative both become a positive. So anytime you see negative, negative, then they both become a positive, just like down here. Okay, look at 2C11. You have 21. Subtraction, we want to make this to an addition sign so that it's much easier for our brains to interpret. So again, leave the first one the same. Change this to an addition sign, then this one needs to be the opposite sign. We're doing the same thing on every problem. Every problem, you're making the subtraction sign an addition sign, and then you're going to change the second sign to be the opposite sign. So make this a positive or a plus, and then change this to be the opposite sign, which is a positive. So this becomes, I have 21 plus I have 43. Well, if I have 21 and I have 43, I'm still going to have in the end. How much am I going to have? Add these two numbers together. So 21 plus 43, 64. And you can do this off to the side to double check my work. Look at 2C number 5. Okay, again, we're not changing the first number. Subtraction, we want to make it a positive. We want to make it a plus sign. And then you change this sign to be the opposite sign. And again, anytime you see negative, negative, only in math do 2 wrongs make a right. Negative, negative, both become a positive. And that's what you see down here. So you owe 8 plus someone gave you 8. Well, if you owe 8 and then someone gave you 8, or you can think of it in reverse. You have 8 and then someone took away 8. You have $8. Someone took away $8 from you. How much money do you have? $0. Okay, ignore my dog. So 0 is your answer, and we don't express 0 as a positive or negative number. It's just 0. Okay, now I want you to look at 2D number 10. So the one thing I want to point out on when you get to the D page, that is a review page. So on the review page, you will have review problems. You will have problems that are new and review. So if you look at 2D10, the one thing that I want to point out is that you have a plus sign here. These are problems just like we worked in lesson 1. So you only need to change the sign in between the two numbers is if it's a subtraction sign. Don't change it if it's a plus sign, okay? We want there to be a plus sign right here. So when you get to the review pages and you have all different kinds of signs here, a plus sign and subtraction sign, you're only changing the subtraction sign. Leave the plus sign there. So this reads as that you owe 43 and that you have 98. Or you can think of it as you have 98 and then you owe 43. So if you have 98 and then you owe 43, in the end you're still going to have money. Well, how much do you have? You're going to take your 98 minus your 43. Because you have 98, then you're going to owe 43 and you subtract these. So that means you will have still 55 in the end.